Greetings friends! In this video I'm going to talk about some things that some people may find to be controversial and some may completely disagree with me about, but I'm going to talk about it anyways. A number of weeks ago, my family and we got our first family cow. Yes! But we got off to a really shaky start. For starters, the cow was pretty stressed out and it didn't like us. And her and I, let's just say, had an uncomfortable interaction together that first day. Not there. Not there. Thankfully I'm okay and I'm still capable of having more kids one day if my wife and I decide to. But thankfully things gradually got better. I continued to work with her and got her to the point where she was eating feed out of my hand. And then when I thought things were going really smooth, someone was working on our property and they did something and it spooked her, and then somehow she got off of her tether and she just went running away. So I started jogging up to the area where she was, and what do you know, she wasn't tethered to the tree like she had been. And then I get there and there she is by the road, and I'm like, all right. And then randomly the cow, she just, Aunt May, she just runs, she just goes running through a neighboring cemetery, through there, into a neighbor's pasture where he has bulls. And I'm like, no, don't do that. So I go not to a jog, but into a full sprint this time with my boots on and everything. I'm just, oh man. But thankfully, I got her back. And I share these experiences in greater detail in some previous videos, but I also explain how we're using a tie-out or tethered system with our cow as we are working with her, similar to how other countries do with some of their livestock. And let me tell you, I got a few negative comments that I downright thought was offensive, as well as some other people from other countries said, hey, we do that too, and they found it offensive. And with that, I had to take a step back for a minute and say, Mike, maybe you need to do a little bit better job of explaining to some people some things that they may not be taking into consideration. Because a lot of people have in their mind an end result or polished versions of what they have seen on another farm or homestead, and they think that everyone needs to match that. And they also haven't seen the progression of what a lot of places went to get to that end result. So there's that, and there's a number of other things that people may not be taking into consideration. And with that, I also want to say that if someone is doing something that doesn't match up with what you have in your mind they should be doing, or something that you think they should be doing based on what you have seen somebody else doing, don't be so quick to berate them. I've had the opportunity to visit farms and homesteads across the United States, as well as I've had the opportunity to see farms in other countries as well. And I've had the opportunity to see a lot of different ways of doing things. And with that, it's given me an open mind to a lot of different things, that there's not just one cookie cutter way to do everything, that there's a lot of flexibility in approaches and ways of doing things. And with that in mind, I'm going to say something that some may find controversial or may not agree with, but I'm going to say it anyways. And I want to say that I can't say that it is wrong to tie out or tether an animal. Many of our ancestors for thousands of years did so. And with that, I also want to say, should a poor or low income family that doesn't have tens or hundreds or thousands of acres be hindered from raising an animal for their family to provide something like milk to their family? Should they be hindered from doing so if they're providing it with feed and water and taking care of that animal? I'm gonna say no, they should. And if they have to tether it down or tie it out properly, they should be able to do so without people just going nuts and crazy. And this too may be controversial or hard for some people to believe or accept, but an animal life is not equal to that of a human's. Human lives are much more valuable than animal life, and the Bible even talks about that it's impossible for goats and bulls to atone for the sins of a human being. But with that in mind, does that mean we should just mistreat our animals? No, it does not, and I'm not saying that at all. As the Bible also says that a righteous man regards the life of his animal, and I believe in that, and with that, my goal is to make sure that our animals live the best life possible as much as we can provide for them here on our farmstead. And I want to make sure that they have as many good days as they can, and as we like to say, just one bad day here on the farmstead, and that's when they're processed to go for food for us. And in addition to all that, part of my farming practices is, I believe, in rotational grazing, allowing animals to have fresh grass and eat bugs if they do so, and have the ability to be able to express the characteristics that they are designed with as much as we are capable of doing that. And with that, I also still believe that there are times and purposes that you can tie out an animal to do certain things. For example, we will tie out, and I have seen others do it as well, tie out goats to graze in specific areas. And it's worked great. But back to our cow. We have been using the tie out or tethered system with her to primarily condition her to know that this farm, this property is her home, as well as to condition her to work with us and us to work with her in a safely manner, because her just roaming around, busting through things, being scared is a safety risk for her as well as for other people. So in this process that we've been conditioning her and working with her, we have been using a tie out or tethered system. My goal has not been and has never been for her to be permanently tethered to a tree. Once she became relaxed, once she became trained to do what we needed her to do, it was time to graduate her from the tether and introduce her to an electric fence for her to be able to roam around more freely. He's getting pretty good at putting fencing up together.
Thanks.
Are they working around you? They're working around you, aren't they? Yeah? Yeah. My only concern with this was she's a large animal. She could just easily plow right through this fence. What is gonna happen? So we took her off the lead. She just curiously walked around, eventually came to the fence, and then zap! It zapped her. She didn't run through the fence. She freaked out, went back to her safe zone, and stayed there until she got more comfortable. And for the next couple days, she was a little bit freaked out. So much so that she didn't want to come to the milking station to be milked. But thankfully, I had been working with her for a couple weeks now, and I was able to work with her. We had the trust together, so she trusted me, and we just walked through the opening of the fence to go to the milking station. Come on. It's okay. Come on. Yep, come on. And she has been doing a fantastic job. She's gotten to the point where I don't even need to walk her over to where she needs to be milked anymore. All we do is just open up the electric fencing. She just comes right in to be milked and then goes right back. No need to even have hands on her at all. It's been doing so well.
You gonna come? come by yourself? Huh? You gonna come by yourself today? Come on. Come on. Here we go. Come on. Yeah.
And some of you may be wondering why I didn't do a permanent fence setup. Well, we really like the idea of portable fencing similar to Joe Salatin's system, so that way you can move your animals and have them graze in specific areas. So with that, I really like the Premier One fencing, and that's what we use for a majority of our animals. And some of you may be wondering why I didn't do a permanent fence setup for her. Well, I may do that at some point in the future, but overall I like the idea of portable fencing, similar to Joe Salatin at Polyface Farms.
Pretty, isn't it?
It is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So how hard was it to train them to come over to the new pasture?
Well, if you got called for a bowl of ice cream every day at 4 o'clock, you'd probably, about 3:45, your tail would twitch and your ears would flicker too, I expect. So, you know, they respond pretty good to a routine and a fresh salad bar. So yeah, I mean, you could tell nobody had to e-haul them. There was no rodeo.
No.
And they were perfectly happy to come.
I like the ability of moving our animals to different locations, and having movable fencing like we use from Premier One makes that so much easier. And with this and everything else combined, it's been neat to see our cow, Aunt May, adjust to our systems and things that we need for her to do. And I've also been pretty excited about our progress too in all this.
When we first got May, it was a whole new learning experience for me, because I was used to milking one of our goats and her teats were much different than May's. And so I started trying to milk, and I quickly realized I was pretty much gonna have to learn how to milk all over again. And another thing is that I hadn't milked in a while, because Selah was doing all the milking with the goats. So that was another hurdle I had to get across, was, you know, reestablishing my hand strength. And you know, it really took several days, a week or so, until I really got into a good rhythm and got into a good place with milking her. And in the beginning, Mike was the one that really handled May, because he didn't want me to get kicked or knocked over whenever she was acting spicy. And because he was the one that handled her the most, she connected with him and really didn't like me for the first few weeks that she was here. But since then, I've been spending more time with her, and she's really calmed down, and she even lets me scratch her and even licks my hand. Some of you may be asking, why go through all that? Why go through having a cow and trying to tame her and milk her every day? Why do we do all these things? Well, raw milk is a living food, and it's full of nutrients, and there's so many things you can do with it. So we can make our own butter, sour cream, have milk to drink, cheese. I make cottage cheese for Hezekiah, and it's all living food. It still contains all the enzymes that are killed with pasteurization. Real milk is real food that we should be eating, that we should be drinking, that we should be using like our ancestors for thousands of years before us. That's why we have a cow and we do all of these things, is because we like real food.
And you know what? It's pretty crazy to think that raw milk is something that's controversial these days, because our ancestors drank it for thousands of years. Most of mankind's history, our ancestors drank this stuff. And you know what? I don't even like the term raw milk, because it kind of communicates that raw milk is kind of like raw meat, that you have to do something to it for you to consume it. No, I like real unaltered milk, pure goodness is what it is. It's good for you. And another controversy surrounding cows is that cow farts and cow burps are causing our world to heat up. Give me a break, people. Come on. And whenever I hear these different philosophies and theories from man, I always compare them to what God's truth says, because should be the beginning of all knowledge, as well as to comparing it to what our ancestors had done, and it has gotten us to the point that we are today. And if it goes against those things, I pretty much throw it out the window, because it's probably something just new that some crazy guy came up with. And a lot of people are deceived because of a lack of understanding, a lack of hands-on experiences. These things play into being able to make sound decisions and sound judgments on these various topics and controversial matters. And what most people don't know in regards to this subject is that we actually have fewer cattle today than we used to have. Compared to 1975, we have 30% less beef cattle than we used to have, and we actually have fewer dairy cows. Back in 1975, we had something like 25 million dairy cows versus today, where we only have 9 million. So those are some pretty drastically different numbers. And contrary to what some may say, the nutritional benefits for beef and milk are far superior to that of bugs or some man-made concoctions. God knew what he was doing. And he also knew what he was doing when he called the promised land, because it was a land flowing with milk and honey. He didn't say that because milk and honey were bad for you. Nope, it was because they were good for you and still are. And one of the best things to keep in mind with all these different things is strive for balance. As human beings, we tend to go from one ditch to the other ditch. You have in one ditch people trying to strip away all the nutrients in the food that God created and ultimately want to ban it. And then in this other ditch you have these ultra purists that you can only drink milk out of a certain container in a certain way, and you can't make the cheese and butter this way or that way, or you can only eat your beef when it's raw. You can't cook it at all. No, there's balance, people. There's balance. And one of the decisions that we made recently that some purists may not agree with is I decided to get a milking machine, and we recently had it delivered.
Yeah, she's good at driving this. She's done it her whole life. Yep. That's good. Yep, that works. I could have had the truck just pull them down a little bit closer, but I thought they were going to be like in this huge semi or something where they would have to come on down here and possibly get stuck or something. But got it unloaded. Lacie has been driving one of those things since she was just a little kid. So she's much more efficient than me. Oh well, that's why she drives the skid steer.
And I am the granddad. And some of the primary reasons why I got a milking machine is, one, I wanted to improve our efficiency with milking, but the bigger reason is I want others to be able to benefit from the blessings of our family cow. I want some of our extended family members as well as some friends to be able to enjoy milk and to be able to come milk and get some milk for themselves. And it'll also give us a break from time to time from milking, especially my wife, since she's the main one milking right now. Having a milking machine will help others to be able to easily come do it, so they don't have to worry about getting their hands in shape to come milk. They can just easily get milk, take it home with them. And I wish I could share our milk with you all watching this video, but I can't. But you know what? You all can decide to raise a family cow on your own. If you can't do that, maybe you can raise some chickens or grow a garden or something like that. But if you can't do any of that, find a local farmer or someone in your area that can do those things and figure out a way for it to work out and be mutually beneficial for you all. Now that would be great.